Shalom uvracha. Welcome back to another episode of Semichas Chaver, Chaver Talks. This week we have the tremendous chus to hear from Rav Gavriel Koskas, who's the Mar D'Asr Magen David in Surfside. It's a Sephardic kehila. It's an incredible kehila. I've been there. You'll hear a whole bunch of stories of times when I was there of a siyum that they made, which was an incredible surprise. And then all the way at the end of this episode, the Rav describes an incredible story that he saw firsthand with the power of benching inside. It's a fabulous episode, and you'll see really the different the Mesorahs of pssak, the Sephardi Mesorah, the Ashkenazi Mesorah, and how they intertwine. It's really incredible, and you don't want to miss it. So let's jump right in. Shalom uvracha. This week on the Semichas Chaver podcast, Semichas Chaver, we have the tremendous schus to be sitting together with Gavriel Koskas, the Mar D'Asr of Magen David in Surfside, Florida. I had the schus to be in the Rav's community. I think it was a year and a half ago, or 2 years ago almost now. And it is a kehila that is mamish on fire. The guys that are on fire. It all comes from the Rav. It's a Sephardi kehila. I think you're Syrian. It's a Syrian. It's the SYs, right? We're the J.
Yeah.
And you guys are the SYs. And it's an amazing kehila. The Chaver are mamish on fire. They have a rivalry with the Boca Semichas Chaver, which is the best thing ever. When people are taking the bechina and who has the highest grade percentage. It's amazing. Last time we were there, we had to separate between the Boca Semichas Chaver and the Surfside Semichas Chaver, and we want to reinvigorate the rivalry here again. Anyways, but it's a tremendous chus to have the Rav on board. We always start off if the Rav can tell us a little bit about just your, I guess, upbringing a little bit your Mesorah, who your rabbanim were, and then a little bit about the kehila and how Semichas Chaver has affected the kehila itself. So now we're all ears.
Sure. Well, thank you very much to have me on. It's a big zichut that we have this program in our shul. So thanks to you for all the incredible work that you do. People are really, really enjoying it. But to answer your question, so I grew up in France, in Paris. And then, at the age of 17, I graduated high school. I actually was not going to be learning Kula Kodesh. The plan was to be a doctor, like my father, like my aunt, like we're scientists in the family. And my father told me just, why not try 1 year of yeshiva? I said, you know what? I'm 17. You're right. I'm just going to go to yeshiva, but I want the best. So what's the best yeshiva in Europe? Gateshead Yeshiva. Like, how am I going to get in this place? I tried for another day, but it's a very long story that I had Siyata Dishman. I was able to go into Gateshead Yeshiva. Over there, I met, some of the Gedolei Olam, including the Matityahu Salomon, who was just niftar recently. When I was in Yeshiva in Gateshead, he was Mashgiach there. So then when I went to Lakewood, he was also there. So anyways, but it was really a life-changing experience. And again, I'm making a long story short. I decided to stay in Kodesh. From there, I went to America. Matiseo actually told me, don't go to Eretz, you go to America. I said, okay, whatever. So I went to America in Torah Tvima for a couple of months. That's when I met your in-laws' family, actually. David Norman was my good friend in Yeshiva, and that's how I met your father-in-law's sister, etc. And then didn't really work for me, that yeshiva, so I went to South Forsberg Yeshiva, which is very interesting because it's such a yeshivish place, and I'm not yeshivish at all. But I loved every minute that I was in yeshiva. I was there for 3 years, and it was incredible to get close, very, very, very close to Rav Eliezer Wachtfeugel, whom I'm still very, very close with. Any question I have for the kehila, anything that I need guidance, I either go in person or I call him, and I have a tremendous zechut to be close to such a gadol. After that, I met my wife. Before going to Etzrol, I was going to go to Bris, but then my Rosh Hashanah actually told me he was Purim, and told me, nah, you're going to meet your wife here, you're not going to Etzrol. And that's exactly what happened. Somebody made the shidduch. I met my wife. She's from Mexico City, but we decided to go to Lakewood for a couple of years. And from there, we went to Mexico City. From Mexico City, we came to Florida, and I've been here the Rav of this community that we basically started 17 years already.
Wow.
That makes me an old man.
Amazing. And does the Rav have any Sephardi Rabbanim as well?
So I tell you the truth. When I grew up in Paris and in Gateshead and in Fallsburg and Lakewood, this is all, in Paris, I was more connected to the Ashkenazi community. I did my bar mitzvah. I read in Sephardic and this, but I was like, where we lived, I went to Ashkenaz school. So really, I grew up more like the Ashkenaz learning, etc. I always say, Hashem shezoche lishne shulchanot. I was, Baruch Hashem, I was zoche to learn the lamdis and all the pilpula harifta of the way the Ashkenazim learn in yeshiva, etc. But then I learned halacha. Well, I studied in Lakewood the halacha, and then in Mexico, I learned for 5 years under Rav David Shueke. Chacham David Shueke is a very, very big pssak in Mexico City. He's actually from America. He learned in the Mir, but he's a main pssak. So I really started developing the taste of the Sephardic halacha over there. And over the years, I'll be honest, I after that, I just started drinking the halacha works of, Rav Ovadia, all the other Sephardic poskim also, but Rav Ovadia has such I always say, it would take 500 years to write one tshuva of Yabia Omer. I mean, it's just crazy. You take any tshuva in Yabia Omer, there's hundreds of sources that is just, it's very, very humbling to see the amount of knowledge that there is. So yeah, Baruch Hashem, then I connected a lot with Rav David Yosef, Rav Yitzchak Yosef, many of these. And if I have any sheila, Rav Gidon Ben Moshe, there's a lot of poskim today in Israel that are really tremendous Talmidei Chachamim. And the Sephardic derech of pssak halacha is somewhat different than the Ashkenaz derech. I'm sure we'll elaborate a little bit more on that as this conversation goes. But
give us a snippet. What would you say is like the defining factor between the Sephardi pssak and the Ashkenazi pssak?
Well, first of all, Sephardim, we like to live. We don't like to suffer. That's number one. I don't know why you guys are obsessed with chumrah. We don't do that. We do halacha. We believe God is perfect being, so we stay in the middle. Now, after this little milta d'ibdichuta, there are principles that we have, that we go by. The famous Sveka that Rav Ovadia Yosef speaks so much about. He's cholek on the shach in Yodei Kufyud, and there's a lot of discussions that go, but a lot of the tradition of where it comes from, a little bit the way you do it. Bring the Gemara, bring the Rishonim. Let's see what's actually happened. How did you go from this to that? Many topics of halacha. Sometimes we're very surprised, and it's very authentic, connected to the, to the pure halacha, what it says here. Oh, like they used to say in Yeshua, "Vos steht do." Yeah. So from Vos steht do, it exactly is written here. That's what we do. I always like to say jokingly, God asked us not to eat bread on Pesach. How did you go from bread to what you guys do? I have no idea. But I know there's stories and there's minhagim. I'm not trying to criticize Chas v'Shalom, but this is just an example. It's very now it's brought down in Sfarim HaKadoshim.
Ashkenazi yeshivas, they say that the reason why Sephardim need to say slichas for a whole month is because they kidneys on Pesach. That's how the joke.
It's not the only reason why we have to do slichas on Pesach, but there are many more reasons. But it's just an example. Besides from Bishul Goy, that you guys are a little bit more makel and a couple more halachot, maybe Hilchot Shabbat with Bishul, etc. But yeah, I don't know. It's a very different derech. We're very attached to the Mesorah. So what has been said before. A lot of that's a little bit the derech of Rav Ovadia to always bring. Look, guys, you're talking about things, and it's been already addressed a long time ago. Now he has a big cute that is incredible. I do think I want to say something that I do think that there's a little bit of a mistake that we all do, and perhaps you may agree with me. It doesn't matter where the pssak was born. If what he's saying makes sense, then it makes sense. My point is, if Rav Moshe Feinstein says, a pssak, and it's not a pssak that is based on the Ramah, It's a pssak that's based on anything. Don't come and tell me, to my Sephardic friend, don't come and tell me, oh, Moshe Feinstein is for the Ashkenazim. Chas v'shalom, that's shtigot. I would say the same thing on the other side. If the Svarad Rabbi Ovadia brings you is not aligned on the Shulchan Aruch only, and there's no Ramah that goes against the Shulchan Aruch, then why is it automatically dismissed almost? Oh, that's Rabbi Ovadia, that's for the Sfaradim. That's an error. It makes no. The Rambam was Sephardic. I hope we're okay with that. And the Rashba, and the Ramban, and the Ram, the Ritva, and all the the major Rishonim. Many of the major Rishonim were Sephardim. We never had such a distinction. Why do we have this distinction? I learned Shevet HaLevi, I learned all the Ashkenazi poskim. That there's no. It doesn't go by where you were born. It goes by what you say.
Yeah, I think
They
now
say based on.
you
understand?
I think now in the yeshivas, for sure, in like the Kailim, they're learning halacha. They're learning just as they're learning the Shevet HaLevi and Ramoshes and Rosh Zalman. I think they're also learning the Abi Omer and the Chavadas and all the Sfarim of Avad. Like we were saying before, it's almost like a wealth of knowledge that and a lot of times it really depends on the Mesorah, right? On the Mesorah of your pssak, and if it doesn't go against the Mesorah of Ashkenaz, like you're saying, so then it could be it could definitely be Mekubal. Okay, a little bit about
that. Although there's, if I may add, there's a sefer that I actually see from here. It's called Kitve Rav David Vali. So Rav David Vali was the Rebbe of the Ramchal, and then he became his Talmud because he saw how great it was. It's a great story. He has Sfarim on Tanakh, on Nach, all al pi Kabbalah, and there's two Sfarim called Sefer Alikutim from David Vali, and over there he says something extraordinary about Sephardim, Ashkenazim, Italians, and Yerushalmim. He says that Ashkenazim is the koach of pilpul. It's called tvuna. What's tvuna? Tvuna is the koach lidamos davar mitoch davar, to discuss the pilpul of the Torah. He says that's the koach of the Ashkenazim. It's interesting because we're talking about 200-300 years ago. So then he says the Sephardim is chokhmah. It's Torah Emet, so it's Kabbalah and the Halacha. And then he says the Yerushalmim have both, and the Italians have none. What's interesting is that he was from Italy. So I'm just saying, this chiluk of how to learn is actually, it's brought down in Sfarim. It's not just, but okay, whatever. It's interesting.
When I was in the Rav's Kehila, so it was because there was a big siyum that we did with, we had discussed that Rav Shachter came and the Rishon LeZion Rav Amar came. It was a fascinating thing. And at the end, we were in Florida, and then we went to Baltimore, and then we went to New York. And at the end of the New York trip, so Rav Shachter and Rav Amar were together already for almost a week. And I asked both the Rabbanim, I said, after a week of being together, what is, I said, I have a question for Rav Shachter, and I have a question for Rav Amar. So the question for Rav Shachter is, what could we learn from Sephardim? And the question for Rav Amar is, what could Sephardim learn from Ashkenazim? That was the questions that I asked both of them. So Rav Amar said that we can learn from Ashkenazim along the lines of what you're saying, like the chashivus of Limanat Torah, of like getting into the depth of Limanat Torah. And Rav Shachter said we could learn kavod Torah from the Sephardim. How to really give kavod kamosh tzarich to the Torah itself. I remember every Sephardi shua. I remember the first time I davened in the Sephardi. When you live in Eretz Yisrael, you get to daven in, you're not just in your little bubble. You can daven wherever. So I remember the first time I must have been 14, 15 years old here in Eretz Yisrael. And right away they say Kaddish, I stand up. I'm the only one standing. Everyone is sitting. So right, it's like everything's the opposite. But one thing that I've seen in every Sephardi community that I've been to, and I've been Baruch Hashem, there's been a lot. The second the Sefer Torah comes out, the entire Kehila goes to kiss the Sefer Torah. And Ashkenazi shuls, it's like, okay, if it passes by me, and I'll give it a kiss. Some shuls in America, the Sefer, they bring the Sefer Torah around to everyone to kiss it. Rav Shachter once told me, he said, that's a terrible thing. He says, the Sefer Torah should come to you. He says, get out of your seat, come give the Sefer Torah a kiss, come to you. So, and you see that in all the Kehilas, and also when Rabbanim come. It's mamish the same thing. I remember when Rav Amar got in Aliyah, in the different Sephardi minyanim that we were in, when we were davening, the whole Kehila comes to say Yashikach. It's like, just like you kissed the Sefer Torah, you kissed also the...
Yes. I tell you, I had a very interesting, a few years ago, I had two giants who came at the same time. was Rabbi Yitzchak Yosef, was Rishon LeZion. Must have been 5-6 years ago. So it was a Shabbat. He came, and I had another very important guest. It was Eliyahu Levin from Lakewood. He's a big pssak. He has a kolel dayanut, and they were both Shabbat. So Shabbat afternoon, I didn't know what to do. There's a shiur of halacha, so I had basically Rabbi Eliyahu Levin gave from 5 to 6 p.m. and Rabbi Yitzchak Yosef from 6 to 7 p.m. Must have been in the summertime. And what happened is that Rabbi Yitzchak Yosef came maybe 10 minutes early. So Rabbi Eliyahu Levin, out of respect, he said, okay, that's it. And Rabbi Yitzchak Yosef said, no, absolutely not. Finish this year. Finish this year. And then Rabbi Yitzchak Yosef gave his year, and Rabbi Eliyahu Levin stayed for this year. So I asked each one separately the same question that you did. Wow, what happened? How did So Rabbi Eliyahu Levin told me the hekef, the knowledge of Torah that Rabbi Yitzchak Yosef has is unbelievable. He was shocked by it, like the amount of quotes they was bringing just on the shiur of Bishul and Shabbat. And I asked Rabbi Yitzchak Yosef, because first thing Rabbi Yitzchak Yosef told me, does he learn halacha? I say, yeah, of course, he's a pssak halacha in Lakewood. He said, okay, very nice. I said, yeah, his depth. I remember this. Yeah, his depth in the limud was women in Sfirat HaOmer, the pilpulim they made. That's unbelievable. So each one was mitpael from the other, exactly the derech that they don't have, which is very interesting.
V'zui darka shel Torah, to be mechabed the other person and to really
Absolutely.
When Rav Shachter and Rav Amar, one of the things people asked me after that week that we were together, so they asked me what was like being with them. So the kavod Torah that they each have for one another is just wild. They won't sit down unless the other one is ready to sit. They won't move unless the other one. It's like two sefer Torah. You can write a whole sefer just on the kavod Torah that they each gave one another. Let's jump into.
Well, thank you for bringing that to us. That was amazing.
It's a siyata d'shmaya, really big schus. Let's segue now into the halachas that we're learning. All right, does the Rabbi have a story of anyone in Semichas Chaver, in your kehila, how it affected them? And the goal is to give chizuk to everyone else who's listening of the impact of taking a bechina, the impact of learning halacha.
So look, I thought a little bit about this. I'm not going to do the classic. Everybody, this guy was impressed. Okay, fine. We all have stories like this. I want to tell you two things though that are very, very impressive. I think the first one is really how we started, because I think it's very important. How we started it was during COVID or right after COVID. I don't know if you remember actually, but there was one individual who said, during COVID I was on the one of Boca was on Zoom, and it was right after COVID. He said, we should really bring this to our shul. Actually, this person is not somebody from my shul. He's an Ashkenaz guy, Eli Dominitz, and he happened to be that his in-laws, whatever, it's complicated. Some of the family davens by us because they're Sephardim. He's not Sephardic, so he does. Anyways, when there's a kiddush from the family, they all come. So he came. I know him, hi, whatever. I didn't know him well. And he just mentioned something. He said, there was this program of halacha, etc. And the first thing I came to my mom, like, guys, we learn halacha in my shul. I mean, this is something very interesting. The Ashkenazim, a lot of times, they don't learn halacha. We learn halacha. We train for that. And it was like a halacha program, another halacha program. I have so many already. Like 4 or 5 shiurim every day. And 2 of them is halacha. So I'm like, okay, whatever. Show me what it is. So he basically showed me what it is. I'm like, oh wow, this is nice. I do teach halacha, but we don't have that structure, of course. So I got very interested, and that's when we started schmoozing a little bit. And the only reason I'm bringing this is because one man led to another, that led to another. We started, I think the first man was like 15 maybe, and then it led to another man, maybe 30, 45. We got to 60, 60, 65, etc. We got to big numbers, and it all started from a suggestion of one individual. Just one thing. He just suggested it. And I think sometimes what a word could do, it just took the courage, I would think, to approach me, to just talk to me, to suggest something. And I said, look, it sounds amazing. And one word, one suggestion, and the hours and hours and hours of Torah that are being learned by so many people for now, I don't know, 2-3 years that we're on this, is all the schut of one person who did this. So my I think my story is actually, don't be afraid of. And by the way, from our program, you know that better than me, but many programs opened,
For sure.
in the neighborhood and outside of the neighborhood. Many times, like this man, I'm like, there were a couple guys who didn't come back. I'm like, everything okay? So, no, we loved it so much that we opened in our show because people came from many different shows. Like, that's amazing. Really, when I say a certain number, it's much bigger than that. And all started with one person who suggested the limud. So that's a big musad. The other story I want to say is that the first month that we did this, it was transformative, like you're saying, because of the whole structure and the bechina and everything. And I have a Baal Bait who was so excited about this that he decided. I remember we did a party, first time ever, and surprise, Achnasat Sefer Torah. In the middle of the party, I knew it because I planned with him. I had to bring the software and to make sure that it was. And he made the Achnasat Sefer Torah in the middle of the party as a thank you for for the whole program. So that was like, whoa, that was like put right away in the map. This is Chashivut Torah. You were talking about the Chashivut of some individual. That was something crazy. I think it's probably one of the wildest parties that you probably ever had of your program in the Semichas Chaver, but that was something memorable.
Remember that?
Unbelievable.
Send me pictures afterwards and a video. It was really amazing. And I said it's mamish Torah Shabbal Pat Torah Shabbal. It's Italia. It's really amazing. Maybe B'ezrat Hashem we'll do a big one and we'll do it again. Sounds
B'ezrat Hashem.
Incredible. So let's get into a little bit of the Torah Shabbal Pad that we're learning now. So one of the questions I've been asking all the Rabbanim that we've been doing in the podcast, and we'll get more into like the later halachos as well, are number one, just very briefly, you do Mayim Achronim? Does the Rav do Mayim Achronim? And then number two,
of course,
is always Sephardim always do it. Mayim Achronim,
yes, Chova.
Very.
I mean that's what it says in the halacha, no?
And how does the Rav hold the cup? That was the second question.
Sorry?
How does the Rav hold the Kiddush cup?
Okay. Again, don't forget I learned a lot of things about Ashkenazim, so I'm not very. But I remember the shla, from under.
Right.
It's not a Kiddush cup, but from under. I try to do this, but it goes all over the place. So I'm not. I prefer to be just hold the cup normally, but yeah.
So one of the few differences that we've seen in the halacha between Sephardim and Ashkenazim is with regards to the fourth bracha of benching. So the fourth bracha is a derabanan, right? Meaning Chazal were the one that enacted. We assume that the first three are deraisa, and we saw in Afkamina if you're repeating benching, or if you're not sure if you benched or not. So should you repeat the last one or not? So we saw that
Right.
that according to Ashkenazim, they say once you forgot, once you're repeating benching, we say something deraisa l'chomra, and also the fourth one. The Sephardim, we saw from the Yalkut Yosef that to omit the fourth one. Is that lamaisa what the Sephardim do? We want to know lamaisa. What koreh b'shetach? We want to know what's going on in the homes.
I don't see the olam following this pssak, to be honest with you.
Is it because of a lack of knowledge?
I don't think so. It's just the Svara of Mishnah raised, also the package that was done together, like Kriyat Shema and Birchot Kriyat Shema, all together. I don't see this chuk being done. I think the minhag haolam is not to follow this pssak. Many times there are.
Even though Sephardim are very makbid when it comes to Savlik Brachas Lahaka, the Rav Ovadia a few times writes that we say Savlik Brachas Lahaka afilu negedat maran, right? Even against the pssak of the Shulchan Aruch. And here it's mamish.
Right. I tell you what I see the minhag haolam is lemase. There are a lot of things that who am I to say, but that the minhag is not to follow necessarily. I give you an example that has nothing to do with this sugya, but Lauradia says that women cannot say the berachot of berachot Kriyat Shema because it's berachot Kriyat Shema. It's a Zman Grama story. He also says they cannot say Musaf. So there are a lot of psakim that he said, which, with all the respect that is due to Rabbi, again, there are certain minhagim that the communities follow. I can tell you in the Syrian communities and in all the schools, I asked around, and people don't follow this psak. They do teach in the girls' school, maybe some schools are very careful with that. So, I mean, Rabbi says also that women should wear a kippah when they say bracha, which, by the way, it's a difference. Yeah, but makes a lot of sense. It makes no sense that a single girl shouldn't cover her head when she says bracha. In Sephardic shuls, the old timers, some women come to shul and they wear, something, not the head covering, like something similar to a kippah. I have women who come to shul and they wear a kippah when they pray, and I always used to make fun of that. But really, if you look in the halakha, it doesn't say anywhere that there's a chiluk between men and women on that.
Rav Shul,
but the Maaseh people don't do it.
The Rav Shul is not a progressive shul. We just want to make model rabbis.
No. No, but it's just So there are a lot of psakim. I'm not going to say, but there are a lot of psakim that you go by what we know how to do on the Maaseh. I think on this, for sure, we're not knowing like that.
Another example, women who are mesupuk if they benched or not. So Rav Avadia also says, and the Yalkut brings it, that since the woman, there's a shayla, she's mechuyed midoraisa, so for her, it's just a derabanan, or he puts her sfeika, so he says it's better not to bench.
Right.
She's mesupuk whether she benched or not.
Right. Yeah, for sure. That makes sense. Yeah, for sure. So always we consider her to be the Rabbah. She wouldn't say it again.
Right. Now, the Rav mentioned before brachas for mitzvah seishas man grama that women aren't always makbid, like Birkus Krishma. What about lulav? Is the Sephardi aeound like
we don't say bracha? We don't say bracha. No, we don't say the bracha. And you know what's interesting is that normally you would say, why don't they shake without a bracha at least? But I think the fact that they don't say bracha brings a little bit of rifyon. Now, there's no problem. They're not mitzvahim, but the Sephardic women usually don't even shake. But if they do, for sure, they don't say bracha.
Right.
But I'm going to ask you a question now. But do Ashkenaz women say l'shem b'sukkah, for example, if they sit in the sukkah by themselves?
I think so. Why not? Yeah, if they're making meaning. Usually,
I'm asking. I don't.
Yeah, usually they're yaitze with the bracha of.
Of course. I'm saying if
they'll make, the whoever's making the kiddush or whatever it is. But if they're cholamayim waking up in the morning, you have breakfast. I have breakfast with my wife in the sukkah, so I'll make a leisha b'sukkah on my bread, and she'll make a leisha b'sukkah also after. There's all needed.
Very interesting.
Sukkah, she make a leisha b'sukkah first, and then the bracha. It's like a similar shayla by shachiyanu. When you have a fruit on a shachiyanu, so do you make the bracha? Is the shachiyanu a hafsek onto the fruit? So do you make Do you make the amoitzi, take a bite and then a leishiv, or do you make a amoitzi and then a leishiv, or a leishiv and then a amoitzi? But I guess stay tuned for Semichas Chaver Hilfos Sukkah.
So over there, has a psak to be very careful not to say shechianu by the adlakat nerot. That way, when it comes to kiddush, it shouldn't be hafsek if you answer amen. If a lady answers amen to the shechianu of the I don't know how you do, but that's how we do. So we don't say shechianu by it.
Yeah, Ramesh has a tshuva. He says that the minhag that women do is really to say shachianu when they light their yantiv candles. But I think he writes that if a woman does say shachianu by the yantiv candles, so then she should be makbid not to intervene to the shachianu of her husband who's making kiddush.
All right, so same thing. Okay.
Yeah, very similar. Now Sephardim love amen. I remember everything you go into shul, amen, amen. Amen. Right. Also on your own brachas. Right. Even like let's say even on Shabbos. So they say amen a lot. One huge nafkamina, I think, is by first of all, there's a few nusach of brachos that Sephardim answer amen to their own bracha, and Ashkenazim the only amen that Ashkenazim I think answer amen to is by Uvidei Yerushalayim. Right. Sephardim have which other ones? They have
so we say amen after Ishtabach, Melechel Chai Olamim, amen.
Right.
We say amen by the end of the Amidah, Mevarech Tamu Yisrael B'Shalom, amen.
Okay.
We say amen after the Hallel.
Even the quiet Shema Tzvei, they say amen.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. We say amen at the end of Berachot Kriyat Shema of the evening. Shomer Tamu Yisrael Mikol Davar Lahad, amen. And there's one that people after Hallel, the Yahlelucha, we say amen. And there's another amen that we say that many people forget, is after the berachot of the haftarah. After you finish haftarah, it's a bunch of berachot. Baruch atah Hashem mekadesh hashabbat. Amen. So the halacha for Sephardim is that Bonei Yerushalayim was just an example. It's an example of a bundle of berachot, and whenever you finish a bundle of berachot, you say Amen. And Machloket Rishonim over there, Kan Bonei Yerushalayim Kan V'Shar Berachot, meant regular berachot or a bundle of berachot. And here we have a bundle of berachot. So whenever there's a bundle of berachot, we say Amen to our own beracha at the end.
Fascinating. Fascinating. So and with regards to singing it out loud by Uvenei Yerushalayim, or let's say one of the big chidushim that when I was learning and teaching the sugya is that people think you say B'nei Ashkenazic, B'nei Yerushalayim, Amen. Right? Like it's one long day. You should pause. B'nei Yerushalayim, and then Amen. Meaning it shouldn't be too long of a pause, but it should be a little bit of a pause. And that's one thing.
Wait, there's another difference.
Yes.
If you say Bonei Berachamav, why do you say Berachamav? It says Tzion b'mishpat tipadeh. There's no rachamim over there.
Right.
So there's a different of nusach. We don't say Bonei Berachamav Yerushalayim. We say Bonei Yerushalayim.
And you also say
that's our nusach.
Right. You also say not. You don't say Uvnei. You say Utivnei, right?
V'tivnei.
V'tivnei.
Right.
V'tivnei. The worst is when you're in Eretz Yisrael and you're going, you eat a shawarma and alot timan or whatever it is, and then you come out and all they have is Sephardi benches, and you're Ashkenazi and you're all confused. And it's the worst if it's like Rosh Chodesh and you forget Ya'aleh V'Yavo, and then you need but you remember, and you have that special bracha that you need to insert, and then the whole thing's a mess because there's so many differences between the Ashkenazi bracha and the Sephardi bracha. What was the biggest shock to the Chaver this man of like a halacha that they didn't know that the Rav taught it, and the guys were like, "Wow, really? That's a thing?"
You're putting me on the spot right now.
Is there one or any zman? Any is one going back? Any of the previous zmanim?
I don't know if I remember like one specific wow moment. There are many. I tell you one that I think was a beautiful wow is Rav Shlomo Zalman Auerbach. First of all, he always says wow chidushim, but when Rav Shlomo Zalman says with the chinuch of the child, back to the question we asked before, the child is also doing Birkat Hamazon with the Rabbanan. So if you had a safek, you should also, not repeat the Birkat Hamazon. If you had the safek with the Retzeh, for example, because you have to repeat it. It was never chiyuv to begin with. Oh, he says, no, but you're training him, so training him in the right way. By the way, it's almost like Gemara Mufreshet in Sukkah when he talks about the children of Hilani Amalka. Within the Ritva, it says, he could have told the kid that he was less than 20. No. If we do it right, because the chinuch at the end of the day, that's what they learn for later. So you don't cheat and you don't lie on chinuch. So this is maybe the same svara, but here's it. He's learning, this kid. How can you teach him to do it differently because it's a derabanan? But now he's learning. So therefore, you're going to have to do it the way as if he's an adult. That was, I think, a beautiful chidush that a lot of people enjoyed really much. Now, I must say, I'm voicey, in the shiurim. I love your material, but I add a little bit. There's one. May I?
Yeah, that's exactly what this podcast is for. To hear what the Rav adds in your case, so people that don't go to the Rav shir can get a little bit of a feeling of the Rav's shir and the additions. Yeah, for sure.
So I tell you, one of the two shirim ago, we have one of the most difficult situations that we have is when you go to a wedding or to bar mitzvah, and you don't want to wait 5 hours, for the people to come back and do the zimun together, etc. So you quote Moshe Feinstein, who says, that you could basically stipulate from before you're not really interested in being a part of we call it the corporation, of these corporations. So that way, when you stipulate that, when you come in, basically you're announcing that you're not a part of this. It's actually an old machloket. This is a very old machloket between Rav Shlomo Kluger and Rabbi Avraham Mibuchach. And Rav Shlomo Kluger is the one who says this chidush. He says you have kavanah not to be part of this. I think Rav Avraham Mibuchach he says something that I thought right away, and in other sugyot also it could come is how in the world these kinds of kavanot work. I mean, you're literally doing something that goes against every kavanah you could do. You're sitting with the guys, you're having fun with the guys, you're talking with these people. You chose that table because you want to sit with your friends, but you're not part of that. I'm going to use a strong language. It sounds a little ridiculous. If you're really not part of that corporation, then go sit by somewhere else with people that you're not interested in sitting. How can you claim or declare mentally or verbally, I'm not sure, that you're not part of this group and you don't want to eat with these people when you are eating with these people? So I mentioned that, and, it sounds great because we're looking for a way out. It's a problem we all have. But at the same time, it's too much. Like, if you want to be like, how does it work? It's a bit the same thing I said to the guys. And guys, it's the same thing that some poskim we deal with the problem on Friday night. That you come home. Remember Rabbi Akiva, you come home. How can you say kiddush? You were already Yotzei Mikadesh Shabbat in the Shmoneh Esrei, and now you come home. You say Mikadesh Shabbat. The lady didn't do the kiddush yet, so how she Yotzei? She's midoraita. She's the Rabbanan now to do it on wine. And some poskim say, what do they say? They say, just have in mind not to be Yotzei when you say Mikadesh Shabbat, not Yotzei midin kiddush. What kind of an etzah is that? You read the words Baruch Atah Hashem Mikadesh Shabbat, which literally means we bless you Hashem, whatever Baruch Atah Hashem want to translate. Mikadesh Shabbat, you're sanctifying the Shabbat. It's the same bracha, Mikadesh Shabbat. You're going to say in Kiddush. You say, no, I'm not mekaven to be mechaven. So what did you mechaven when you said this bracha? Not to be Mikadesh Shabbat. So then what is it? Lip service? Just reading the text? So, it's addressed in the poskim. They discuss it. It's the same kind of thing, So I get a little passionate. Guy, come on, what kind of an insight is that?
What? Do you?
I think actually Rabbi Abraham Buchach says, I have to find the source and read it inside. But I think he says you have to show, like to somehow, I don't know how to formulate, to show that you're not part of this corporation. I don't know, to eat in a different way.
Not enough to just think it. You have to maybe announce it.
No.
Or move a little bit.
Do something. Maybe you eat like this, or you don't talk to the guys, or you talk less to the guys. I don't know. But to have a regular, conversation, regular meal, is just that your kind is going to be different. No, I'm not part of this. Either you are. No, I'm not. Okay, fine. So, it's when we discussed that, I think it was a very interesting point to discuss. We find this kavanah many times in halakha.
Find it a lot. Yeah, I mean, I think it's.
I know, but
by Kiddush, where he says that the reason why you're not having kavanah to be yotzei by Shmoneh Esrei is because you want to be yotzei lechatchila halachos, because Chazal added that you should be yotzei your chiyuv of Kiddush on the cup. So when you're saying the words Mekadesh Shabbos, you're saying that, yeah, Kadosh Baruch Hu, you're Mekadesh Shabbos, but that's not my chiyuv of Kiddush. My chiyuv of Kiddush of being Mekadesh Shabbos with a cup of wine, which is the highest level of Kiddush, that's the way to do it. But we find also in other places where your kavanah could have it in effect. For example, if someone has something that's a mezainis, let's say he has pasta and rice, right? You have pasta and rice. So the bracha rishona on rice is mizonos, and bracha achrona is bar nefashos. And if you're having pasta, it's mezainis and it's alamicha. So let's say that's all I had for lunch. I had pasta and I had rice. So I make a mizonos in the beginning. What bracha achrona do I make? So if I make an alamicha, so there's shitas that say that b'diavad, the alamicha of the pasta could be mighty the rice as well, and therefore you won't be able to say the rice. So if you have kavanah, the chora, if you have some of the achronim say this, if you have kavanah when you're saying the alamicha that it's not going to be motzi the rice, so then you can also say a bar nefashos on the rice. But V'yasha happens to say that you should first make a bar nefashos and then an alamicha.
Yeah, I was going to tell you. Ben Zion also says that.
Right.
Come out with a problem.
So
it's a little different. But if you do netilat yadayim, remember when we learned the halachos, you do netilat yadayim, you have kind of not to have clean hands. Does it work?
So in economy, right? You're saying here it's worse.
Then you're gonna have a safek bracha. You say beracha, your hands are clean already. So
right.
So you say, no, I didn't have kavanah to be. Okay, come on, it's a mitzvut thing.
Right.
Here it's a little more mitzvut. In Aramishya, it's different. Here it's a mitzvut thing. You are part of the people. You are eating with the people, but you're not declaring that you're not.
Right. So Rabbi Ramesh also uses as a tzirif the other achronim and the rishonim that say that the chiv zimin is at the end of the meal, that the Bach quotes, that the Mishavura quotes the Bach. Right. I think it is. That maybe the chiv is at the end. But we'll end with this. Does the Rav have any eitzah on how to make benching better? Does the Rav have any divrei bracha, anything that for the people who are listening?
So I tell you maybe 2 points. I have somebody in my kehila who actually tried. I'm very tough with my guys, just to be clear. He tried joining the Semichas Chaver. He's one of those I kicked out. He came once, and I said, you know what? Get out. It's not for you. Goodbye. Then, and by the way, he tried sponsoring. He said, can I sponsor the 6 months? I said, how much you want to give? Tell me the 1,500. I said, too cheap. Get out. Yeah, you think for $1,500 you're going to get the school of 6 months of learning of 40, 50 guys? Get out of here. You're not getting it. So I didn't take the money. Anyways, so this guy happened to be nothing to do. It's just funny. So he's somebody from my kehila. I love this guy. And he had, a few years ago, he had an eye problem. A very serious eye problem. He was going to lose his eyesight. And he asked a Rav, it's because before I knew him even, he asked a Rav in New York, he told him, what should I do? I'm it's a real problem. And he told him, read Birkat Hamazon word for word. And he did. And he still does it. And all I could say is, it works. I know that that you brought in the things, it says other things for Mizonot. It happened to me also. He's very comfortable, so maybe it works also for that. But I could tell you firsthand, I know, he told me, same doctor said, when he started with this, it, Baruch Hashem, went around, and today he has a perfect vision.
Amazing.
And that's amazing. Number 2, what I would like to say is, there's a shla, I think, that says, and forgive me, maybe you said it, I don't know anymore where I get my information from. I think there's a shla kadosh who says that the reason why we say the arachamans after the because really the end of the Birkat Hamazon is by the end of the 4th bracha. Why do we say all the arachamans? It's such an auspicious moment because it's such a big mitzvah that basically says in the zchut of that mitzvah, you could ask whatever you want. And that's why we throw, and in the Sephardim, we have a really long list of arachamans. I think the Ashkenazim have a few, I remember from school. But we have like 20 arachamans. You ask everything. If one of those 20 works, it's like amazing. We got 20 or plus, I don't remember, but a big number. And he says the reason is because this mitzvah is so special and so big that this is in the zchut of doing this mitzvah, you could ask whatever you want. And I find it fascinating that we have in front of us such important mitzvot that, of course, we don't pay enough attention to. But perhaps with these 2 points, it will give enough chizuk, maybe some fuel for somebody to get inspired.
Bezat Hashem, amazing. There are some rabbanim who, some Jews, they have what's called benchophobia, where they don't want to wash because they're scared. I committed. Now I need a bench. Now I just lost 5 minutes in the bench. Adrabah, there are a lot of rabbanim who went out of their way to make sure that every day they wash. So like that I can be kind of bits of how many bits of deraisis do we have already? You have tefillin, you have tzitzis, maybe it's a tcheles, not tcheles, they're all sigil, we'll get into that maybe. But how many bits of deraisis does a person encounter during the day? So they went out of their ways to eat, to become full, and then they become in the midst of the halachos. It's tremendous chus having the Rav on board. And regards to the amazing tzibur that the Rav has, and tell them that we want to make sure they have more test takers than Boca this month, because there's going to be no excuses if they
sure.
less
That's it.
test takers.
Boca can't win.
Amazing. All right, Kod Rav, all the best.
Good job, amazing. Thank you for everything you do.
That's a class.